Speaking moistly. Speaking moistly. You 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly. Speaking
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speaking Moistly. With me, as usual, is Greg. How's it going, buddy?
Fantastic, man. How are you? I'm caffeinated today, but I'm
Good.
doing well. The sun's shining in the window. How are you?
Good, good. Actually, it's a thunderstorm here, so, you know, things are what they are.
right.
Quite archetypal. Thunderstorms. I got removed from YouTube, my main channel. Nuked. C10 passes, and I think it was the next day or the day after. They went back to episode 429, I think. 458, 429, and they said, yeah, you are violating these blah, blah, blah. That's 200 episodes ago. Incredible.
200 episodes? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me wishes I wish I could say I was surprised, but it is really sad, man. It's really it's not even just sad. It's enraging and frustrating because you literally read mainstream media news and react to it. You give your take to it.
Yep.
And you're a regular guy. You're a guy in a garage. You got a family. You're concerned about the future of this country. And then YouTube's like medical misinformation. And I think what's so interesting about all this person that banned you off YouTube, let's call her Susan, even she was against Bill C-10. Did you know that she came out to be in opposition to Bill C-10?
I did.
So even she, the person who banned you, is even against Bill C-10. That's how bad a shape we're in here in Canada.
I wonder.
The unlawful banning of you is somebody who even disagrees with our government. That's how regimented and insane they are.
Yeah, well, and I think that it's interesting. Like part of it is some people thought that I was making quite a lot of money on YouTube. I don't make all that much money on YouTube. I think it was less than $50 or $60 a month from YouTube. At the height of it, when I had between 4,000 and 8,000 subscribers, I would make between $400 and $600 ish a month for advertising. But then when I hit 10,000 subscribers, they started throttling my views. And then what they would do is the first 20, like nobody watches my show like 3 days later. It's a kind of daily thing, right? And so I would have all of the first day's viewed would be, it would like there's a yellow sign.
Demonetized.
Yeah, it was demonetized, but there's like a yellow sign, right? So like when I publish my show.
So when most of your views views are accumulating, you're not getting the monetization from it, which is like the hottest time for your video to be actually getting monetized. Yeah.
Right. So they would I would have up to 2,000 views on the first day, and then and even more, and then they have my views and have my views and have my views. So they were doing everything they could to get me off that for years, and I've been talking about it like that. Yeah. But the whole point was just to keep going.
To be fair. Yeah. To be fair, another thing that's probably happened in the lifespan of your channel is they've broadly been kind of cracking down and making it harder to make money here and there on YouTube. So it could be twofold, not just because of what you're talking about, but also some changes to their monetization and how it's gotten kind of increasingly political. Yeah. Like it's gotten to the point where if you're not talking about kids' toys and super clean PG stuff, like they'll find some reason to at least slightly demonetize your content, right?
Yeah. So, but it seemed like a coordinated, and again, I don't do this for the money. Like we don't get paid. You and I don't get paid for speaking moistly here. This is a project of love. I like that you laugh.
We get paid. We get paid in comments and very thoughtful comments from our viewers.
In love. We get paid in love. And occasional hate.
In love. Oh, right. That too.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit, you feel a little when the anti-hate people target you. You're like, oh, these guys again. I remember them from such times as 2019.
It's like having a secret. It's like having a secret admirer.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we creeped out and watched all of your content, and we're going to try and spin a few words around that we didn't like. And it's like, wow, you put a lot of time into this.
Yeah, it is.
That's very sweet of you guys.
But the thing is, like, the motivation for doing this, for me anyway, and when I started this, it was more, I was frustrated because the news was not telling the truth about things. And it seemed like it was purposely misleading people. And that's a problem. Right. And so the point wasn't to correct people. Like it wasn't to be like they're wrong and I'm right. It was just to get out a different side of it and just talk about why I thought was happening.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really
if you were
interesting.
if you were a grade school teacher, and you were marking the mainstream media news in Canada, you would give them an NI. You would say this needs improvements.
Yes.
This is not satisfactory.
I would give them.
I want to try and add something to it.
I would give them a failed. I would give them an F, and it would be red, and it would be circled, so everybody else around their desk would be able to see that they failed because it's fake.
Yeah.
I would give them a big F. But I find it interesting that I start talking about the news, and literally, and I don't mean to dwell on this. This isn't. I don't think I'm the news. I don't think that I'm all that important. But I think that the trajectory of the channel is I just want to start doing this. I monetized the channel specifically to see what they demonetized because I'd been hearing about demonetization, and I thought, isn't that weird that they can just do that? I wonder if they demonetize me. And now I've gone on the trajectory of like having a monetized YouTube channel that was making me hundreds of dollars a month, let's say, and then having that monetized YouTube channel removed for violations. And what I wanted to say was, if you get a violation, if you get a strike on YouTube, they don't tell you what you did that violated the policy. They just say that this episode, this hour-long episode, you violated the policy.
Yeah.
And if you ask them, what did I do to violate the policy? They give you a snarky like email back, like basically, and so it's like, huh.
This is across the board on social media.
Yeah.
And unless you're a content creator, you don't really understand what a problem this is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, for some people, this is their livelihood. And you can find plenty of YouTube videos of like big YouTubers complaining about this, how it's not transparent at all. Yeah. It's just, we're going to ban you when we feel like it. We're going to, hey, why'd you ban me? I hate speech. Yeah, but specifically, what did I say? It's hate speech. It's harassment and bullying. It's medical. Like, what specifically? Yeah. Our policies are very clear online. It's like, this is really insulting. Yeah. This is, I'm making content for you, YouTube, you big machine. I'm a content slave for you. The least you could do is tell me something. Tell me something. What's going on here? But
they
it's
don't.
just
And
like,
so
no, we're just.
If the law is unknowable, but if you find out if you break it, like slap you on the wrist. Oh, okay. What did I do? Don't do it again, though.
I think it's.
If you care,
I think it's actually pretty clear. It's pretty clear why they don't have that, right? Because as long as they're not transparent about their specific rules, then they almost have no laws. There is no like justice because it's like in the real world we have a case. It's like, what this person versus this person case, and we can go back to that case and see what the ruling was. But while everyone's in the dark on like YouTube censorship or tech censorship laws, you never make a precedent for anything.
Yeah.
So it's like they're refusing to even like grow if it makes sense, like the digital justice system, the like digital, like they're refusing to even create that infrastructure or that kind of granular process of like what speech is and isn't allowed. Instead, it's just like, we're just going to keep all the power and ban the undesirables when we feel like it. And
right, that's exactly it. They're not trying at all. I think you nailed it there. I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. I think that they're trying to keep an iron fist of control on, an iron curtain, if you will, right? A Berlin type wall around their power, and they don't want anybody cracking that down. They don't want like PewDiePie to say that wasn't medical misinformation, so they're not going to say exactly when. Yeah, man. I think that that's exactly what they're doing. Okay, we're going to get back to free speech and how it relates to Canada at the end of the show. We're going to talk specifically about C36 and C10 and speech and the Senate and what's going on there. But first, let's talk about Adam Skelly. Adam Skelly had his constitutional challenge yesterday, and I said in my show, nothing's going to come of this. They're going to bury this one way or the other, and they refused to do any ruling on this. They just decided that she didn't have jurisdiction.
That's what you said, eh? That's what you called it beforehand.
Oh, I called it.
Throw this out.
Oh, yeah. I said there's no way.
Man.
I said there's no way. You know what? They had the London bomber. Not the London bomber, excuse me. The London vehicle person in court on the same day. And I was like, I understand the play now, right? Like they're not going to talk about this at all. But what they did, it was a procedural. They said, we don't have jurisdiction. You filed the wrong paperwork and we have to kick this out. I'm not going to play Skelly's little thing here. I played it on my show this morning. But he talks about how basically he thinks it's a bunch of delay tactics. And I think that that's exactly right. Because what did you say in the green room? Justice delayed is justice denied. I think that's it. I think that they're doing everything they can.
Yeah. I mean, kind of going back to our previous topic there, you know, more and more of our world is becoming increasingly digital. And the fact that there isn't like a system being made to like create justice or like have a right and wrong and like defining the granular thing, that's a huge problem, because it's almost like in the digital world, it already is some sort of authoritarian fascist regime. And then all the leftists will show up and say, well, it's a private company. It's a private company. Yeah, okay. But
you better make make that cake, though.
Yeah.
You better make that cake. Private company.
Yeah.
You remember that?
He's referring to the gays complaining about not getting wedding cake made for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a private. Twitter's a private company. But if you are a Christian bakery, you have to make this gay wedding cake. What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, California. Weird. It's a weird rule.
I can feel my brain cells leaving my body. So no, but with this Adam Skelly thing, this is yeah. I mean, I've said this before about Norman Traversy, about I hate to say it, but like, you know, baby boomer conservatives or baby boomer Canadians, like Doug Force, The Myth is Canada, and they have all these theories of, oh well, we can try to like make this corsecade about how it's not a country, or Canada's not a real country, it's a corporation, blah 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 blah. And I tell them, like, it's very cute that you think justice still exists in this country. Like, I think that's adorable.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't. And we need to start acting like that, because I think I've said this before on the show, but the Canadian government is pretty well at war against its own citizens. If you look into what's happening, they clearly have their own directives. It has nothing to do with what's good for Canadians. Yeah. It has everything to do with what's good for them consolidating power.
Yep.
And there's just so many examples of that, and it's becoming so much more abundantly clear. We were talking about this before the cameras turned on, but, you know, us dissidents or us people who are concerned about the future of our country need to band together. We need to make a plan. We need to connect and just kind of figure out what we can do with the time that is given to us. That's Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Right. But yeah.
I think that the way to do that as well, you and I talked about this. This is kind of workshopping, like not a war room, but workshopping, kind of discussing it that way. I think that it's a mistake because you said we have to stop C-36, and I said, well, they kind of got control of all that. Like, you can't. It's hard to stop things like that. But you said educating people, then, like, we should have a goal for that. And I think that, like, if we could figure out a way to get a group of people interested in educating 10,000 people about the speech laws, etc., that would be a lofty goal. That would be something that would be worthwhile, just educating people on what's going on. But the difficulty is the media is setting a different
I think we need to use Bill C-36 as a moral reset, a cultural morality reset, because the reason the left and progressives are so successful is they are morally good in their hearts and their minds, and they have convinced so many people that they are morally good in their hearts and their minds. And unfortunately, what failing conservatives and the flailing CPC party does is say, oh, well, no, actually, technically, they don't have the same, we are morally good and you are morally bad, because that is actually what speaks to people on a more human level. And unfortunately, politics is emotion. Yeah. Okay. So to think that the stats, oh, well, technically the stats, no. Obviously, we're going to incorporate stats, but we need to be emotional in our attacks. We need to be ruthless in our attacks and our accusations of these people being evil.
Yeah.
And let's look at history. The history of authoritarianism, and it's like this is happening right now, and there's an opportunity to show everyday Canadians what Bill C-36 really is, and specifically shame the crap out of the NDP and the Bloc Québécois and say, if they support this bill, they are evil, like the Liberals, point blank, period.
Okay, so hold on. They already do. They do, though. Like, not even if. They already do. They already did. So the thing is, they already supported the bill. No, C36, not okay. They already supported C10, not C36. You're right. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say is the topic of my show this morning was we should be open about like this being a communist takeover. We should start talking about it in the terms of like it looks like our government has been usurped. It looks like they're not taking the orders from the Canadian public anymore. There's another agenda at play, and courts, it seems, are on board. School boards are on board. Provincial governments are on board. The federal government's on board. But it doesn't seem like anybody at any level is listening to the actual citizens about what they want. And they're moving forward with this plan and telling us this is what you want. But when people get together and talk, it's not what anybody wants. Everybody's like, this is insane. Like what's happening is insane. This is a big departure from the way we used to live. And instead of saying what's happening, we can start saying, you know what? We know what's happening. This looks like a communist takeover. This seems like a communist takeover. They're removing our right to speak freely. They're removing our history. They're renaming Dundas Street. They're renaming other streets for slavery reasons. They've canceled Canada Day for graves that we knew about since the 1970s. They were rediscovered in 2012 and 2015 in the what's that report? The reconciliation report. We knew about these graves then, and it was this week that $27 million was authorized for ground radar. So they confirmed what we knew in 2012 to 2015, and now cancel Canada Day. I think this is a communist takeover. They tick all the boxes. And so instead of being confused, I think that having certainty and saying, you have usurped our government. You are not acting on behalf of Canadians, and we know this, right? Rather than being confused about it.
And for those who doubt it, let's take Bill C-10.
Sure.
Are the people in control? Are any of the people wanting Bill C-10? Like, you can't find one person who says, yeah, I think Bill C-10 is a good idea. I mean, the people that you can find like that are just believing the rhetoric coming from the liberals, which is total nonsense.
Yeah.
Anybody who's an expert in the field is like, this is really bad news, and I don't see how this is going to help the people. Like, the people are not in control. In a democracy, by the way, that's the way it's supposed to work. The people are supposed to be in control of the bills that are passed. But it's on its face more and more objectively authoritarian. Not an exaggeration. That's not like a hyperbolic. That's actually a close definition of the word.
Yeah. Well, so I guess we'll jump up to C10 and then we'll talk about Aaron O'Toole. But I forgot to do this. The Senate is decided, and this was going to be the end of the show, but the Senate has decided to deal with C10. Senator Husaka says, as a result of a recording of government business, we will be dealing with Bill C10 later than expected. And then he goes to, this should have been loading, but anyway, Holly Doan says the Senate will send it back, it appears. But my concern is the UN DRIP got passed, right? They did this with UN DRIP. They sent UN DRIP before the last federal election, and then the Senate sent it back, and then they went through an election and they resent it, and the Senate passed it. Flying colors, no problem. While this is loading, it looks like the Senate is, it says senators to introduce amendments to Gelbo's Bill C-10, the first of two censorship bills, and it says, shouldn't we ask Canadians if they even want the internet regulated in this way? Because he didn't do any public consultations, right? He did consultation with six buddies who were probably drinking.
This is at least a little bit inspiring. I mean, it's like it buys us time by the sounds of it, if this is true, if it is truly going back to the bill, going back to the House of Commons. Mm-hmm. But you're right. This is the only reason that this is inspiring and uplifting is because it buys us time, not because it's like, the Senate loves the Canadian people all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. We still need to be very, like you were saying before, that the Senate is kind of like, already compromised. They're majority liberal senators. Yep. But the fact that it is being resisted, that buys us time. That buys us time, at least, to try and do something to draw attention to the very vile things that are just being rammed through legislation. UN DRIP, UNDRIP, whatever you want to call it. That's another huge basket of problems that I haven't really heard many people talk about, and like the implications of it are horribly open to, just like Bill C-10 and Bill C-36, horribly open to being abused in all sorts of malicious, terrible ways. And once again, if you connect the dots between the United Nations, Agenda 2030, like it just paints this picture. It spells out communism,
tyranny,
and it's bad news. It's bad news.
It is, and there's no.
And
sorry, go ahead.
Just to add to that, the saddest part about the UN drip thing, and many other things that the liberals pass through, is they tokenize marginalized people. So they'll tokenize POC, people of color. They'll tokenize Muslim people. They'll tokenize indigenous people to ram through this legislation as if it's going to help them, when in reality they're just using them as this like little shield to usurp more power. And if you're one of the crazy people like me and you who have autism and have the time to actually read these bills, you'll see that it's just like this looks like bad news. This is like an excuse to just create a new kind of twisted like form of authority, where we're going to give a bunch of power to like a handful of indigenous people, not the community, a handful of indigenous people, where just trust us. They're going to have the best decisions for everything that passes through the House of Commons from now on. Just trust us. It's a good group of guys. Don't worry.
So first, I have ADHD, and second,
hey, I say autism in a loving way.
Fair,
okay?
fair.
We're all on the spectrum.
In the early 2000s, I'll explain why autism went crazy just quick. The second thing is it's too big. The UN drip is too big. People don't understand it. The reason autism went crazy in the early 2000s was because the school boards incentivized it. If you had autism, you got funding, like EAs and help in school and stuff. But if you didn't have autism, then you didn't get funding. So people took their kids to doctors and said, say he's got autism so we can get funding. That's why autism took off in the early 2000s.
Jeez.
That's the reason. But the UN drip stuff is too big. People don't understand it. If you can't explain it in like one shot, if you can't explain it like this happened because this and this, people are like, so they're gonna make us eat bugs, and then all of a sudden when you're starving and somebody says, here's a salad with some cockroaches, you're like, fuck it, I'm hungry. Like, that's the problem.
I think you're right. I think that the major issue in Canada right now, like specifically right now, is we still have so many people that don't think or that believe that our government has our best interest in mind. And so when they have that core belief of, I think they have our best interest in mind, when you show them, oh no, they're just going to use this and manipulate it for like, dishonest, malicious endeavors, like they don't want to believe that, right? It doesn't align with their belief that these people are being dishonest, that these people are and it's like, well, they've ethic violations, they're covering things up, like I don't know why you trust these people so much. There's a whole lot of evidence to the contrary,
a lot of reason not to trust them.
But I here take this candy. Come into my van and get a vaccine. Here's some candy.
Yeah,
little boy.
From a generation that was raised on like don't trust anybody, basically. Like, right? But we were raised into compliance too. It took me forever to unlearn what I learned in school and realize that the world does not work the way that the Ontario school believes that it works post 2000. But it took me a long time to unlearn all of the bad things that were taught, and I mean, like the basics were okay, but there was a whole bunch of like the way you make money, the way you're taught to make money is to work for somebody. You have to get a good job, you have to have good grades to get into a good school, and then you get a good job. It's not like, if you buy 20 of these widgets and you sell them for $1, if you buy these widgets for 25 cents each and you sell them all for $1, you've made 75 cents, and if you can sell them quickly, you've made a whole bunch. And it's like, that's not compelling. And most of the teachers in Ontario public schools don't have a concept of making money that way. They don't understand it. They don't understand how business works, right? So it's
also here's how you can work your tax returns so you can save money on taxes. Right. Like that's another thing, a major thing that everyone has to do that is never talked about in school. Unless you take accounting in high school.
Managing a household, like there was a time when mothers would train their daughters in how to manage a household, and that was seen as valuable.
There was a home ec class that we had in high school still. I doubt it's still there.
I learned how to bake in home ec. Actually, I just took home ec because there was baking, and I was like, you get to bake in school? That's fantastic. Let's do that. Nice. They gave me a sewing machine too. It was wonderful. I sewed some shorts.
Nice.
I don't know. I wasn't like I was the only guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move back to cultural
Practical
attacks.
life skills.
Hey man, you got to teach kids things. Like you can't be like, kids. If you're a male, you could be a female, and then not teach them anything else. Like that's wrong.
Education. This is education.
Welcome to Ontario high school.
And by the way, this is for lesson 1 of critical race theory. The color of your skin is very, 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 very important, and that's the very first thing you should think about when you see somebody.
It might actually be the most important thing about you.
I'm not going to tell you anything else, kids, but just know that it's a really big deal. It's a really big deal, kids. All right.
It's what the whole West
sounds
is
like a
being
great
torn apart over right now.
Great idea.
Well,
Let's teach that
and religion. That and religion is actually being torn apart right now in the West. Aaron O'Toole weighs in on the churches being burned. Have you heard of all the churches being burned recently across First Nation territory?
Not nearly enough. I've heard a little bit about it.
You haven't heard much of it. Okay. There were 6. There were up to 6, and they're all in the past week, I think, in all First Nation territories.
All in BC?
I think all in BC, but it could be 1 or 2 in Quebec. There's been across Canada. Like it hasn't been 6 in just BC, but I think 4 were in BC. And then I heard of 2 others in different places, but I couldn't tell you where. It looks maybe like I was gonna say maybe Quebec. No, I don't know about that. But Aaron O'Toole says it's appalling to see churches in Canada burned and vandalized. We all have work to do on the path to reconciliation. That these acts undermine important discussions on how we move forward. It needs to stop. So who's he blaming on this? It seems tone deaf, right? It seems well, not tone deaf necessarily. At least he's saying it needs to stop. But I don't know that that's the right.
You know what a good segment would be? Reading a tweet and being like, was this Aaron O'Toole or was this Justin Trudeau? Well, and
right.
And that's the thing. You would not be able to tell the difference. You would not be able to tell the difference between these tweets.
The problem is that O'Toole's going for the really big mushy center. And he thinks that the mushy center is interested in hearing this kind of stuff. Interested in or he's just controlled opposition and that's it. Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, no. Don't I 100% think he's controlled opposition. There's no part of me that thinks that Aaron O'Toole is meaningful. I mean, he demoted Poilievre. Poilievre's probably the most high-profile minister. Could have been the leader of the party. And
I forgot about that. That happened a while ago now, right?
Yeah,
that happened a while ago now.
Yeah, no, I don't think Aaron. I don't think O'Toole's in it for anybody but whoever his masters are. And I think that. Trudeau wants an exit strategy. I think he wants a way to get out, and I think that the way that he gets out is he's incompetent, and Aaron O'Toole is like the heir apparent because he's the Conservative Party leader, right? And what he'll do is worse than what Trudeau's doing right now. Like what he'll do is how to put this into perspective. Like not Harper, because Harper actually did things well. Who was the Conservative guy before Harper? No, I don't know. I don't know, because wasn't it Liberals? The Liberals had.
I was in high school at the time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's. All right. Forget it. Forget the comparison. But people will be angry just because it's Aaron O'Toole, right? And then people will. We've got no real opposition at any level.
No, and I think you're right. I think by O'Toole targeting the mushy middle, he's in turn just making real conservatives more mushy themselves, right? Like instead of the conservative right wing becoming stronger and becoming bolder and like pushing harder against this Overton window shift towards this communist takeover, he's actually doing this thing where he's like, yeah, I care about this, but mush, 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 mush. Mush, 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 and kind of just dragging us along in that direction. And I mean, I don't want to get into like war room talk of what's specifically wrong with this tweet, but just to kind of speak to the whole Indigenous thing that's going on right now, because it's a hot topic, obviously, is there's a lot that's going on. There's a romanticizing of everything Indigenous, and there's a whitewashing of our history to just be genocidal and racist, and that's like the only thing it's ever been. And it's so infantile. Like the thinking is so infantile and simplistic that it's, we're just kind of reaching new levels of stupidity and like being hyperbolic in the narratives that are being fed to people. And I think that's been really ramping up ever since climate change, BLM, and COVID. But like, this is just another example of it just being like, here's the narrative, genocide and racism. Like, that's what you like if you like Canada. And it's just like, are you serious? Like, it's just so mind-numbingly vapid that
but
it's just hard to believe that we're here.
Yeah, well, it's the programming though. It's like it gives people something to say, right? And even something as simple as when I went over to my parents' house the day after, 2 days after the original 215 grave sites and stuff, and I'd done the research and I looked at it and I was like, it's ground radar. And so my mom was like, oh, it's so awful what happened, blah, 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 blah. I was like, hold on, what are you talking about? Yeah. And she said, the indigenous kids. And I was like, that was ground radar. I was like, did you know that it was ground radar? I said, it's a preliminary result. I said, I'll show you the tweet. Preliminary result from the person at the site. Preliminary result from ground radar. She was like, what? The news said they found bodies. I was like, they haven't dug anything up. It's ground radar. And she was so mad. I was like, but they're just lying to you. And then they'll use that lie. So they asked, National Post did this survey, and there was all sorts. Canada or CBC did a response on this survey as well. But they asked, with Canada's role in, like, historical role in racism, do you think we should cancel Canada Day? And 77% of Canadians said, F no, we should not cancel Canada Day. What the heck's wrong with you people, right? So that's great, but yeah. I think that it's funny that they're using this, like, you guys are so bad and genocidal and terrible to cancel Canada Day, but Canadians aren't having it. Canadians aren't, they're not like, oh yeah, we should totally do that. They're like, what the heck's wrong with you?
Yeah, and speaking back to, like, I feel this connects with Bill C-36 because I really feel like these commies are really overplaying their hand right now, and we need to clap back hard.
Right.
We need to clap back very hard on them, on what they're doing here, because it's totally unacceptable. And if it's going to be a very pivotal, I've been saying this since like a year ago, it's going to be a very pivotal decade for this country. We're either going to find out just how tough we are, or we're going to find out just how weak we are. Well, and quite frankly, I'm excited.
What do you think importing people, the number of people who live in Hamilton every year, what do you think that does to us? Mm-hmm. Like, what do you think that does to the cohesion of our society? What do you, combined with the rhetoric on TV and the rhetoric of, like, Canada's a racist nation and we should cancel Canada Day and blah, 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 blah. Combined with that, plus the zero unity of anybody, like, everybody's being fractured. You stay in your home, you don't talk to people, don't look at people, don't make prolonged eye contact. The virus might jump from your eyeball to their eyeball, right? Like, terrible stuff. All of that is playing to create silos of people who don't talk to each other, who aren't interested in talking to each other, who look past each other, right? And so I think you're right, and I hope that I'm wrong. It's going to be an impactful decade, and I think I hope we see Canadians rise up strong and say, we demand our freedoms. We demand retention of our freedoms, and we demand a government that represents us. But I fear what's going to happen is people are going to shrink away because it's hard to stand up and say, that was ground radar. Like, they're lying to us. It's wrong. The news is wrong. They're lying, and they're liars. And it's hard. It's hard to be that person, right? So it's easy. It's easier to say, yeah, we're terrible, and I guess we should, and then have your Canada Day with your friends and your family, and then go back to your life and ignore the communist takeover of the country. Because I think that's what's happening. I really do.
Yeah, and I think it's the most sinister thing that is happening in this country it's called the authoritarian tiptoe, apparently. And it's very easy for a centrist or someone not engaged with politics to kind of continue to be like, well, it's every little bit by bit by bit by bit. Yep. Each little bit, you don't really notice each little bit. Mm-hmm. And then it continues and continues and continues. And then you turn around, it's like, oh, wow, this is a completely different country. I have no rights. Like, it's, we're there. Oh, man, I wish I would have stood up. Right. So,
yeah. The standing up, though, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
That's the hard part because, like, in this situation, if they do that, Bill C-10, Bill C-36 are meant to target the people who will. That's the whole purpose of those bills, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, heavily heavily disincentivized people for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Massive.
And it's just like, let us make memes. Can we make memes?
Ha.
Government of Canada, are we allowed to make memes? Are we allowed to like have fun anymore or no?
This is a post-fun world.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, man.
It's a
Post-fun. All right. Sum up your final thoughts on the communist takeover of Canada, and where can they find you?
Well, there's a lot going on in this country, and there are people who are standing up and fighting against it. I'm actually going to be speaking at the first annual Canada First Political Action Conference. Myself will be speaking. Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson will be speaking. Mark Friesen will be speaking, along with Tyler L. Russell, the host of Canada First. Check out my Twitter to get updates on that tomorrow at GDDUB, or you can find my my YouTube channel, Greg Wycliffe, down below. And we're gonna, when the going get tough, the tough get going. So let's go.
My speaker invitation got lost in the mail.
Can you make it tomorrow?
No, tomorrow's my birthday. Tomorrow I'm the big 4-0 tomorrow, man.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a June 30th.
June 30th.
Nice.
I always used to joke.
40 years young,
buddy.
Let's go.
You're
looking good, man.
Getting better with age, right? I used to joke that Canada always gives me fireworks.
You could pass. You could pass for 35. I'm sure.
Nice. I got asked for ID the other day. Not at all. I'm sure I could pass for 30, maybe even 34. No. All right. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. I'm putting this on Podbean. So if you're on Podbean, Speaking Moistly should be on there. The last episode is up. This one will go up. And I'm gonna try and continue putting the audio of these episodes up. But you can check out our back catalog with host Jilly and with Greg as well on SpeakingMoistly.co. Thanks for watching, everybody. Here's the Prime Minister to play us out. We'll be around. I'll be doing another one on Thursday, and we'll be around next week, I think. Right, Greg? If Canada's still around, we'll keep doing this, eh?
Yeah, I should be there. Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right. Here we go. Oh, is it going to go? There it
Moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.
Oh, what a terrible image.